guys, what's up? Jaking here. This is actually kind of like prior to the campaign rally, so I'm not gonna put in the national anthem for my intro, but this here proves my effing point. Thank you, Top 10, for actually making this, because this proves my point. This is why stuff like this was made illegal in the first place. And to think that it would gotten this bad. This bad. It's basically gotten to the point where kids no longer give a crud about laws or people in general. I don't know where kids think that they have the right to do this crap, or where teachers think, oh, we don't have to deal with shit, unless it's to save their own A's or save them money.
Today, we're going to be looking at 10 evil bullies who went too far. So it turns out that around 42% of people have been bullied before, and this can be minor stuff like name calling and pushing people around, to absolutely insane things that I couldn't even imagine. And today, we're going to be looking at the insane stuff. So please drop a like if you enjoy. Let's aim for 6,000 likes on this video, because it really does help me out. So coming in at number 10, we have cigarette burning. So this one is coming from China, and this one is so messed up, especially because of the age gap between the bullies and the victim. So this was actually a viral video which blew up in 2015, and the video shows four 15-year-old bullies with a 12-year-old kid who's tied up with a rope around his neck by the older kids. And then the older kids slap him and chase him around and even light cigarettes and then put them down the kid's t-shirt. And one kid even stomped on his head with a shoe, which is really messed up because that kid could have got serious burn injuries. And while the kid was crying and all of this was going on, the bullies were just laughing. And one of them was even filming it, I guess to show their friends or something. No, I'm not going to show the video, but I had to see it to make this video, and I can tell you guys it's so messed up, but it is online, and because of how insane this is, so many Chinese people were pissed off and disgusted, and they demanded that police took action and look into this, and the police got over 4,000 phone calls about it, and they did investigate it, and they found out the identities of all four kids, but the kids couldn't get legal punishment because they were too young, except a fine of around $12,000, which their parents had to pay for. Damn, I can't imagine what their parents did to the kids when they got a $12,000 fine. But the kids didn't totally get away with it because their information got publicized, and they received death threats, they got kicked out of their school, and they probably won't be able to get a job because of this. Now that is a really bad punishment, and some people think the police shouldn't have leaked their information, but what they did was really fucked up. So what do you guys think? Should they be kept anonymous or exposed? Anyway, next up we have Natalie Connor. So this one is absolutely insane and really sad, and if you guys thought the one before was dramatic, well, this one is even more crazy. I mean, it's seriously like something out of a horror movie. So basically, this girl from England called Natalie Connor started really hating and bullying this girl called Lucy Cochrane. And what's really nasty is that Lucy had learning difficulties, which was one of the reasons why Natalie bullied her, and also because she had ginger hair. So basically, Natalie started getting worried about getting in trouble for being a bully, so she told her parents that Lucy had been bullying her, even though it was the other way around. And to get revenge on Lucy for apparently bullying her, even though it was the other way around, Natalie and her mum planned to set her house on fire. But Natalie's dad was an alcoholic, and one night when he was drunk, Natalie's mum persuaded him to do it. So he poured petrol through Lucy's house's letterbox, and then threw in a match to light a massive fire, and the whole house got totally destroyed, and Lucy was left with third-degree burns, which will change.
In this, I would have to say it would be assault, murder, attempted murder, harassment, bullying, aka number 1 on this, and not to mention the fact that you also have to remember false identity, because she was lying, and it was false identity because she technically wasn't being bullied. So, and the schools knew about all along, they just didn't want to say anything. They just wanted to say their own hides.
her life forever because she will never fully recover. And here's the really shocking part, both of Lucy's parents burned to death. So yeah, this bully literally killed her victim's parents and ruined her life. And obviously Natalie and her parents were caught, and the parents were both sentenced to life in jail, but because Natalie was only 17, she could only serve a maximum of 11 years.
That is effed up. She's the one who killed him. The dad probably shouldn't be in jail because he didn't know what he was doing. The mother actually persuaded him, but sending him to rehab, now, yeah, that would probably work. But life in prison for the dad, I think that's a little too far. But for Natalie, that is bull crap. She should have probably had the death sentence for this, because it is terrible.
But for some reason, she was let out in 2011 after only serving half of her sentence. So yeah, this evil girl is at...
Who was president in 2011? Obama. And who let out a ton of people, even people that deserve to be in prison? I mean, I get some people that learn their lesson, that don't deserve life, just because they murder one person, and they think, oh, we're so sorry, we'll never do it again. I get that people deserve a second chance, but for Natalie, that's just bull crap. She should have served her entire sentence, or maybe even a little longer.
Large right now, which I think is insane. So next up on the list we have Jessica Logan. This one is also really sad and is a massive tragedy, and the story is something that happens a lot today, but not usually with this kind of ending. So Jessica was in her last year of high school and she was having a pretty messy breakup with her boyfriend, and you guys have probably all heard of sites like revenge porn and stuff, where people basically leak photos of their exes naked to expose them. And that's kind of what happened to Jessica, because her boyfriend ended up sending naked photos of Jessica to the whole school, and because of this people were harassing her and
harassment, bullying, sexual harassment. I can go on and on. The boyfriend should have been arrested, the school should have been put to end, not to mention several kids in there should have been put to end in prison for a couple years, because that is bullcrap. This should have never happened.
Shaming her, which made her really sad. And apparently the whole school was calling her a slut and a whore. And she tried to talk to teachers about this bullying, but they said to just ask them nicely to delete the photos. Like, what? These teachers obviously didn't give a shit, because everyone knows that would never work. But a little later, a local TV station...
Touché. Everyone knows that this wouldn't work, because teachers don't care. Well, most of them. Some would have dealt with it. In fact, I know a few that would have. But some don't deal with it unless it's to save their own hide, or the deal, or they make more money. Because, you want to know one thing I noticed? If I did become a principal, I couldn't end this in all schools. However, if I could become president, one of the things I promised to do is end this stuff. I mean, schools for learning, having fun with friends. Maybe sometimes a little fighting with friends, sports. But when it comes to bullying, no school should have, no student or person in the world should have to dealt with it.
Invited her in to talk about her bullying and spread the message of anti-bullying, which was good of her to try and be positive and tell people not to send naked photos so they didn't have to experience what she was going through. But this ended up making the bullying worse, and 2 months after the TV appearance, Jessica was found dead in her room, and she'd actually hanged herself because of the bullying. And her parents sued the ex-boyfriend and her school for not doing enough to stop the bullying, which I think is totally justified, and it's so messed up that people bullied her for this. Like, I know girls who have had their nudes leaked and nothing bad happened to them, but just be careful who you guys send photos to. So next up is Sergei Kasper. This is another massive tragedy, and this is also another example of teachers just not giving a shit about their students getting bullied. So this one is from Russia, and basically this kid called Sergei was a student who loved art and acting, but because Russia is very homophobic, they thought he might be gay because of this, so they always bullied him. But one day in 2014, his classmates wrapped him in a plastic bag so he couldn't move his arms or legs, and then this
is probably one of the most tragic stories. because the teachers were watching in the classroom. Nobody gives a shit. And, well, this could happen in America, too. Because I know people who were called faggot because they were thought to be gay. When faggot doesn't even mean gay. But they make words that are meant to, like, seem right, seem wrong. And this one video is one of the videos that proved my point.
They pushed him into a dirty toilet when he was all wrapped up. They then brought him back to the classroom where a teacher was, and they put him in the classroom.
See? Where a teacher was. Look at all the students staring at him.
But because he couldn't stand up because his legs were all wrapped up, he fell over and hit his neck on the teacher's desk. And that ended up crushing him.
All the students were watching this. Nobody wanted to go help him. Nobody wanted to stick a straw in his throat to make sure he could breathe. Instead, here's what they did. They just left him on the ground. This is bull.
His windpipe, and even when he was dying on the floor, bullies were still laughing until a few minutes, and then they realized he couldn't breathe. Sergey was then taken to the hospital, but sadly
they kept laughing until they realized he couldn't breathe. Why the shouldn't have they done that if they realized he couldn't breathe? This is one of my points that are proven. One of them. Out of so many. Why should we let this world suffer when we could easily end this, but we don't choose to do anything about it? This isn't like a president campaign, so I don't want anyone to count. However, I do at the same time. But if you're counting me, count me on my personality, please. And count me for what I want to do. This is one of the things I want to do. But don't count me for their video. But things are being taken out of hand. If this is dealt with, I might not run. But if it's not, I'm running to end. I'm gonna end this. Because this is just effed up.
Died later that day. The whole thing was caught on surveillance video, and the video went viral on YouTube, but I just can't believe the teacher didn't stop this. I think they're just as much to blame as the bullies. But anyway, coming up next is Cade Polos. So in 2012, this kid called Cade went to a junior high school in Oklahoma in America, and one day the school had a superhero dress-up day, and just before the students had to go to their first class and everyone was in the hallway checking out each other's costumes, well, suddenly a really loud gunshot was heard and everyone ran out of the school because everyone thought it might be a school shooting or something. So the students all got evacuated and the school went into total lockdown, but it turns out it wasn't a school shooter but Cade Polos dressed as the Batman villain Two-Face. And Cade had actually shot himself in the head in front.
Remember how Two-Face actually had dreams? He was a hero until after the fact that this happened? Yeah, it makes you wonder what's happening in the world. Because after this, it just gets dark, deep, and infuriating. It makes you wonder, why the heck do we even have a school system that doesn't deal with shit like this? I mean, if you think about it, Two-Face was burned. Unbelievably burned. In fact, look at his face. You see that? He dressed up like that, so I'm guessing he probably torched half of his face just to kill himself in front of everyone after making a speech saying, "Oh, you all drove me to this. I hope you all rot in hell with me." Yeah, that's effed up.
Of loads of people with his dad's handgun, and after his death it was found out that he'd been badly bullied because of his ginger hair. And when the police asked the school if they knew about the bullying, they said no. But one policeman was so sad and angry.
They said no? That is effed up even more. How could they say no to that? I mean, they all know better. Everyone knows better. If somebody gets bullied, they go to a teacher. And you want to know something? I'm one of those people that get bullied right now. That's why I'm trying to end it. Take a stand with me. My presidential quote for campaigning is, let's save the world. Save the world from itself, from doing this to itself. Government doesn't deal with it. That's why I'm going Republican. Because if I went Republican, I would deal with it firsthand. And there's people that are thrown in jail for shit they didn't even do. And you want to know one of the effed up things? I know this bullying crime that went on in Florida. Thing is, this kid actually ended up almost killing his bully. He didn't shoot him really. The fact is, the bully actually had a gun up towards his head saying, "Oh, you wanna mess with me? You wanna mess with me? Well, F off, man. F off. You'll never be as good as me." And that would probably get me infuriating. So the child actually took the handgun and broke the bully's arm with it. After he ripped it out of the arm, which is pretty effed up. Held it up to his head saying, "You don't fuck with me, man. You don't with me." And he literally said that because he had it. He was planning on not shooting him but killing himself. But after so many teachers saw that, they didn't want to get in trouble for the bullying, but they knew how to get away with it. So police officers ended up listening to the teachers and not the student that actually was the victim. And after they found this out, the sentence was already carried out, so it was too late because the bully actually tried to help his punk, quote unquote, because he thought maybe I should change. So he was trying to change, but just kids don't have a say in this world. They still believe the teacher. And when they went to social media about it, still nobody listened. In fact, adults started finding out, but still nobody would deal with it. People were getting furious, and just furious. And this isn't on this video, but it is just very furious. And I don't want this to happen anymore. This kid actually had a death sentence. Since they couldn't legally death sentence him, he was in jail for life until he was probably around maybe 20. When he was legally be death sentenced, still nobody listening. Nobody wanted to investigate because nobody gives a shit. Here's what happened. The guy was found dead by a prison bully, drowned in his own feces in the toilet. Now that is effed up. If you actually know any bully circumstances that happen, please put in the comment section down below. And if you can, try and name the crimes out of it, like harassment, sexual harassment, shit like that, because this is too effed up for our country.
About what happened, he decided to do some digging, and he asked a ton of students, and they said that Cade was bullied a lot and everyone knew, so the school basically just lied to save their own backs, which is obviously really messed up, and this one is just so...
Bingo! He just said the same thing I did. Schools lie to save their own backs. And does anyone deal with it? Ask yourself that.
sad. So next up is Karen Klein. So this is another really sad one, and this is strange because of who was being bullied. So Karen Klein is an elderly woman from New York in America who is...
You gotta be kidding me. An elderly woman is being picked on. And you're gonna see one of the kindest things that the punk does to the bully. She doesn't press charges or anything. And hear what and this is what happens to her. I mean, I get that she didn't want to press charges because she's a kind old lady, stuff like this, that. But this is kind, and I think what she did after this was even kinder. She made a charity to help elderly people like her that this is happening to. Which is awesome, because she's taking a step to help.
Partly deaf, and she worked as a school bus monitor for a high school, which basically just means she looked after everyone and made sure people...
She was a school bus monitor. And the school bus driver didn't deal with any of this shit, and the kids did this to her. In fact, she even admitted one time that she almost committed suicide. Now that's effed up. And this was brought out on election day. So, be aware of that.
are behaving themselves on the school bus. But in 2012, a video went viral called Making the Bus Monitor Cry, where a ton of kids were bullying her. And they were doing stuff like calling her a bitch and saying her family killed themselves not to be with her. And what's so fucked up about that is that her own son did actually kill himself a few years ago, and the students actually knew this, so they were just being plain nasty. And because what they were saying was so messed up, she started crying. But even when she was crying, the kids still mocked her and said she was a fat ass, and she was only crying because she missed her box of Twinkies, which is basically like an unhealthy snack if you guys aren't from America. But anyway, after the video went viral, Karen admitted on the news that the kids had bullied her for a while and would sometimes even attack her and steal her hearing aid. And because people were so outraged by this, they ended up doxing the bullies, which means to give out their information. And because of that, the bullies got a ton of death threats and hate online. And even though these bullies were so nasty to her, Karen asked people not to do this, and she didn't even press charges. Then a Canadian guy who saw the news story set up a GoFundMe, which raised over $700,000 for Karen, and she used that to start up her own charity about anti-bullying. So yeah, at least this one has kind of a happy ending. So next up is Ty Smalley. This is another really shocking and sad one. So basically, this kid called Ty was getting really badly bullied at school because he was so small, and he would get called names, had food thrown on him, got locked in school lockers, and even put into bins. And because of how bad this was getting, his parents decided to send letters to the school, and over the course of only a few months, they sent over 4 letters asking the school to do something about it. But over time, the school just said boys will be boys, and they did nothing. Like, what kind of school is this which just lets kids be bullied? I mean, fair enough if it is just jokes and stuff, but it's pretty obvious that this wasn't. But anyway, one day Ty did something he'd never done before. He got cornered in the school gym and was getting punched, so for once he decided to punch back. And because they were technically fighting, he got sent to the principal's office along with one of the bullies. And Ty got given a 4-day suspension while his bully only got 1. This school...
This is obvious that the school doesn't give a shit. I've actually known a couple incidents where this has happened. In fact, at the end of this video, I'm going to explain my incidences of bullying. Because I'm cracking down. I'm pissed. The reason I want to become president is to end stuff like this. To end crimes that happen all over the world. Just nothing is dealt with. That pisses me off.
Seems so dumb. Why would you give the person who started the fight less of a punishment? And they knew Ty was getting bullied, so why would they suspend him at all? But here's the really shocking and sad part. On the first day of Ty's suspension, he shot himself in the head.
I would get why he would do that. I do get why you do that. It's sad things that happen that I just want to end.
home and killed himself. And I'm not sure if the bully got in trouble for basically causing Ty's suicide, but if what the school was doing before is anything to go by, I doubt the bully got in any trouble at all. So next up we have Bailey O'Neill. So this one is a really shocking one, and the bullies are really evil in this one. So basically this kid called Bailey would often get bullied by these two boys, and one day these two boys jumped him at recess and they tried to attack him and take his lunch money. So Bailey tried to run away, so the bullies started smacking him in the head and face and broke his nose. And Bailey just tried to protect himself the whole time and was given an ice pack to recover. Like seriously, that's not gonna do shit for a broken nose.
No shit. What the f is that gonna do for a broken nose? Anyone wanna specify? Oh wait, nothing. This is bullcrap. I mean, I know I just do random vlogs, random shit on my YouTube in a while, but right now I'm thinking about maining it on the problems in our world. I'm Jonathan Letson and Jake King on YouTube. In public, I'm known as Jonathan Letson, and on YouTube, I'm known as Jake King. The reason I kept with this name is because I didn't want my bullies to know my YouTube channel. But now that I think about it, why should I have done this? Why did I create it? And it got me realizing, why didn't I just have my real name in the first place? And then I remembered why. I get picked on a lot. I don't give a shit. People already know my YouTube that are bullies at my school. They try picking on me. But I delete those comments and report them. This shit is bull.
Anyway, his bully got suspended for about 1 day, but after getting hit in the
1 day. 1 effing day!
head by the bullies, Bailey started to change a lot. So he got checked out by a doctor and they found out that he got a traumatic brain concussion because of the bully's attack. And then Bailey started to get seizures every few seconds on his brain, but before they could even operate, he died in a coma 1 day after his 12th birthday, which is such a sad story, and even though those bullies didn't mean to kill him, they still did, and I hope they got some kind of punishment.
The effed up thing is, he didn't get arrested for the murder. That's the effed up thing.
So next up we have Nicole Madison Lavelle. So this one is a really sad one, especially because of the victim's backstory. And what happened to this girl is so insane, it's like a horror movie. So when this girl called Nicole was around 4, she survived a liver transplant. But when she turned 14, she started getting bullied really badly at school because she had ginger hair, freckles, and was a little bit overweight. So to try and cope with the bullying in real life, she joined a lot of dating websites and tried to create a better life online. And she spent a lot of time.
This girl basically ran away and was murdered by someone who she thought would be her new boyfriend. Now this is probably one of the most effed up stories that typically happens in our everyday lives.
I'm talking to strangers on these anonymous dating websites, and eventually she started talking to a guy called David Eisenhower, who was 18 and went to a university in Virginia in America, and David convinced Nicole to run away with him. So in 2016, Nicole snuck out of her house in the middle of the night to go to Virginia, but when she got there, David and his friend Natalie murdered Nicole, and she was found dead 4 days later in a forest. And this only happened a few months ago, so the killers are still awaiting a sentence, but I think they're gonna get life in jail. But yeah, it turns out that David knew about her age all along and was just using her vulnerability to lure him to her so he could kill her. And all of this wouldn't have happened if Nicole didn't get bullied in the first place. So coming up last is Kyle Darker. So this one is really sad and messed up, especially because of the kid's age. So this 12-year-old boy from England called Kyle was getting badly bullied at school, and one day in 2014 his parents walked into his room to find him hanged from his bed using his bed sheets. He was airlifted to a hospital, but it was too late and he was already dead, and the doctors couldn't bring him back. And some people think he didn't kill himself and he was just playing around and did it by accident.
That is bullcrap. Bullcrap. How could he be playing around when he was hanging with a tied up bed sheet that's tied to his bed and tied around his neck? Wow. Wow.
accident. But I don't really see how you could do something like that by accident. And also, I mean, he was getting bullied, so most people thought he killed himself because of that. And one of his friends wrote on his Facebook saying, "Hate bullies so much, R.I.P. Kyle, sleep tight little man, you had your whole life ahead of you." And another friend wrote, "R.I.P. Kyle, how can someone bully someone so much that they feel then..."
Now this comment here that's being mentioned, I don't like necessarily, because it happens a lot, and just because one comment says that, a ton of people start, they zone to one thing, they don't worry about anything else. They don't worry about the bullies that get in the first place. They just say, "Oh, how could this happen? This is impossible," shit like that.
Need to end their life. It's disgusting, knocks me sick. So it sounds like his friends knew what was going on, but the school refused to tell the media if he was getting bullied or not. But even so, this is such a sad story to end off on. And I'm sorry this was kind of more of a sad and serious video, but I hope you guys can still take the message away from this video, and that's that bullying is so messed up.
He's right, bullying is messed up. I want this to end. Me personally, if I became president in 2040, I want this to end today. This is fucked up. Nobody cares about this shit that happens. All they care about is whether they lose their job or not. And personally, in my personal opinion, it is shit. Just effing shit. You want to know my past? I promise I would say it at the end of this video. Here it is. Me in school, I switched a lot. I generally wasn't liked. I was threatened to be killed, shit like that, for no reason. I finally thought I found a school, but it turned out it was like a war zone. I had friends there, but I ended up leaving that school because, well, they only went up to 8th grade, and then I went to the reading schools I do now. It's actually gotten so bad to where the fact I've had to have half days. I almost tried killing myself 3 times because of this. And I've decided to put an end to it. But nobody deals with this shit, and, well, I want to be one of those people that deal with it. I mean, when I think about it, I look back to my past, but nobody wants to deal with shit. So when I think back to my past, I see different things that should be dealt with, but never are. You think because I'm swearing, it's because I don't deserve to be president? The reason I'm swearing is because I'm ticked. People shouldn't have to deal with stuff like this. People shouldn't have to be like this. When they become grown up, I do get that they have to deal with this once in a while, but they should know that their kids will be able to go to a school where they don't have to deal with bullies. And one thing is actually really fucked up is they make you go because of stuff like this. I don't get why they make you go, and when you try to complain to them, they're like, "Oh no, you just want to do that to get out of school." Sometimes that is the case, but sometimes it's not. People shouldn't investigate before they say shit like that. I'm Jake King, and public known as Jonathan Letson. And I want to be your president for 2040, but I don't want you to count this video as it. Because this video is just to open your eyes up. Think about our problems currently for children around the world. I'm Jake King, and I approve this message. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And I thank you guys for listening. I'm Jake King, in public known as Jonathan Letson, and I approve this message.
This party.